And we also looked very briefly at something known as the Linux file system. Okay. And we are looking at Linux file system from a perspective of cybersecurity, not from a perspective of a Linux administrator. Okay. So this is what we started doing the last time, guys. Okay. So what we are going to do, we are going to go back to Kali. Okay, I will launch Kali here. Depending on what kind of player you are using, it will be, it will differ for you in your case. So I'm using VMware Fusion. You might be working with VirtualBox or VMware Workstation. Right now, my operating system is booting up within a minute. Within 30 seconds, we will be able to go to the login screen, and from there we will start discussing. Okay, so there you go. Again, so it has the default login. I told you guys you can change it, and I'll show you how to change it, your default credentials. So right now, the default credentials that you get for your Kali Linux machine, Kali. Okay, so username being Kali, password being Kali as well. Okay, so we'll also look at how we can. This is your home screen. Last time we talked about this. That this is GUI. Okay, this is how you have your my computer in Windows. Here it's going to look like this, the file system. So unlike C drive, D drive, E drive, you have this. Okay, you have all this set of directories. Okay, if you want to look at the same thing on your terminal, you will do this. Okay, so first of all, when I open my terminal, I need to make sure that on the GUI and on the terminal, I am in the same directories. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to write PWD. Okay. PWD means present working directory, which means where am I right now? Okay. Where am I right now? Let's look if we are on the same directory in our file system. Okay. So I click here. Okay. So once you click here, okay, in your file system, you will be able to find out where you are. Okay, so on my GUI, I am on slash. On my CLI, I am in slash home slash Kali. Okay, let's talk about what that is. Okay, so this is users home directory. Okay, so when you install Kali Linux, if you do not make changes to your username, your default username will be Kali. Okay, so when you log in, when you open up your terminal, the present working directory, as soon as you open your terminal, you will be directed to your home directory, which is slash home slash Kali. Okay. On the file system, you have a directory which is slash. Okay. Slash means root directory or the parent directory. Okay. So in Linux, whenever you see slash, okay, this is the first slash ever. There is no slash before it. There is no slash after it. This slash means parent directory or root directory, which means all the other Linux directories will be inside it, or when we write them out, it will be after this slash. Okay. So if you are worried about what is a directory, directory is just a name for folder. In Linux, no matter what we are dealing with, we might be dealing with drives, we might be dealing with removable media. Okay. In Linux, we categorize everything as either a directory or as a file. Okay, so this is what we do inside Linux. Even if we are working with a tool, there will be a set of directories for that tool. Okay, and then there will be a set of files for that tool. So in Linux, you have folders and files. Okay. So the last time we went here, we looked at the first ever directory, that was bin. Okay. First, let's bring out the uniformity here. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to quit this. Okay. Right now I'm here, and in my terminal, I am in /home/Kali. Now I need to go 2 steps back. First from Kali, I need to go to home, and then from home to this portion. Okay. It's very simple. Where do we want to go? We want to go to slash. Okay. Slash means the ultimate home directory or your root directory. So all you're going to do is write a command which will change your directory to this slash. So how do you do it? cd slash. That's it. cd space slash. So as soon as I write this, this is where I am. Okay. And if you want to check pwd, my now present working directory is slash. It's the same as I have in my GUI. Okay. So the last time we talked about a directory called bin. Okay. Now what is there in bin? Let's talk about it. Okay. Even here, when I write ls means whatever is in a directory, list that out. Okay. So here I have bin, a folder named bin, boot, dev, etc, home, and others. If I want to see that in a terminal, then I will write a command called ls. ls means list out the contents. Okay. So wherever I am, if I want to see the contents there, then I will write ls. pwd means it will, if in case I don't know where I am, it will just tell me my location, in which directory I am right now on my terminal. Okay, that's the difference. So we talked about bin last time. Anyone who attended Friday's class, can you tell me about bin? We talked about bin a lot. We spent around 15 to 20 minutes talking about this directory. Yes, guys. Anyone? Yes, Abdul. Anyone, guys? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, don't worry about your answer being right or wrong. Just tell me what you understood from this. Yes. Okay. Let me tell you. So all the commands that we write on our terminal, all the commands on terminal or on CLI, that's the same thing. Okay. Terminal or CLI. CLI is command line interface. Terminal is where you write your commands. Okay. So all the commands will also stay somewhere. And I just told you that Linux organizes each and everything in form of either folders or files. Okay. So when we write them to a normal user, they look like commands. But what are they in actual? They are files. What kind of files? Binary files. Binary files means which are executed. Okay. And where these binary files live or reside inside a directory called bin. Okay, guys. So suppose if you're writing a command pwd, which means show me where I am, show me my present working directory, you write pwd. But what gets called actually? /bin/pwd. Okay. If you want to check this out, I can show you. So I'll write /bin/pwd. These two commands are exactly the same. Okay. So these two commands are exactly the same. Okay. So yes. Okay. Do you remember what we were talking about the last time about bin? Do you remember that, Uday? Okay. So I told you guys that all your commands are inside bin directory. And then I told you its importance related to cybersecurity. So we are here to learn ethical hacking. We are also here to learn other concepts of cybersecurity as well. Now, how will this directory help us out? I told you that Linux is a multi-user operating system. Okay, so Linux is a multi-user operating system. How does it look like? It will have one administrator named root. Okay, so it's the default name of the administrator of a Linux system. Okay, root user is also known as a super user who has all the permissions. Okay, so you will have different users here. So let's have Dishant, let's have Uday, let's have Adhirath, and let's have Abdul. Okay, now everyone will have a work to do. Okay, everyone will have a task to perform on this particular computer. Okay, so what will happen here is that everyone's job roles would be different. So whatever their job roles are, they will first get some permissions from the root user to access those commands through which they can get their job done on the CLI. Okay, or they will get access to tools through which they will get their job done through GUI. Okay, now on Friday we said that Linux is more secure. Linux is more secure than Windows. How is it more secure? Because it works on a principle of called access control and the principle of least privilege. Now, what does this mean? Access control means here that whatever whichever job role has been provided to me on this operating system, my access will only be limited to those commands or those tools which will help me get my job done. Okay. Least privilege says that I will get the least amount of tools or the least amount of commands through which my job will be done perfectly. Anything extra will not be given to me. Okay. Anything extra will not be given to me. So every user here, Dishant, Uday, Adhirath, and Abdul, will get some set of commands and some set of tools to work with. Okay. Now, what will happen here is that if Dishant wants extra access from root user, root will first verify it, root will first investigate it whether he actually needs this command or not. And if this command is needed by Dishant, then root will give that command to him. Plus, in some cases, he will give some special permissions for some particular type of commands. When the root is not sure that Dishant will do a good job with that command, root will ask Dishant to use that command with his permissions. Okay, so you use a command called sudo through which you get root permissions for that command. Okay, in this case, it's good. So, like we have sudo and we can take root permissions, but any malicious user or anyone who is an attacker who knows about offensive cybersecurity can exploit these commands in the bin directory and try to impersonate others. Okay, try to impersonate others. So that impersonation is actually known as privilege escalation. You will try to get more privileges that don't even apply to you. Okay, so there are two types of privilege escalation. Either Dishant can become any of these three. He can try to become Uday, or he can try to become Abdul, or he can try to become Adhirath by a process called horizontal privilege escalation, or he can try to become straight away root through which he will get all the permissions, and this is known as vertical privilege escalation. Okay, so we have all the commands in binary, and it will help us out when we study a concept practically called privilege escalation. Okay, almost in all of the cybersecurity based certifications, privilege escalation holds most of the part. So 50% of the syllabus or 30% of the syllabus in most of the cybersecurity certifications is on privilege escalation. So that is why if we start early, if we start it okay right now, we will be able to get it perfect for any of the exams that we have to take in the future. Okay. Now let me give you an example here, a very simple example. I come back here to my operating system. Okay, yeah. Let's go to bin directory. Okay, let's go to bin directory now. Okay, what I will do here is I will do cd space slash bin. Okay, now I am in this directory. If you want to confirm, write pwd again. You are in bin directory, and now if you want to see the contents, type ls. Okay, so here whatever we are seeing, these are commands. Okay, these are commands that we use. So there is a command here called ps. You want to check that out? Let's do that. So when I do ps, I'm able to see all the processes that are running here. Okay, I'm able to see all the processes that are running here. If I want to check any other command, let's use this one. Okay, even I haven't used this ever in my life, so let's check this out. Okay, now this is X eyes. Okay, this is X eyes. You have a set of eyes now. Okay, so now if I have to do something with this maliciously, okay, then what will I need to go through? I will need to understand something which is known as vulnerability, and it will lead to something known as exploit. Okay, now what is vulnerability? What is exploit? First of all, if I'm trying to cause the process of privilege escalation, which means if I'm trying to impersonate somebody, if I'm trying to fake somebody else's identity, okay, then the commands that have been given to me, I will first investigate them. I will first try to open them up, see is if there is a problem inside those commands that have been given to me. Okay, finding out issues that can lead to dangerous attacks is known as a vulnerability. Okay, is known as a vulnerability. Suppose I have my house, okay, and I don't have a lock on my main gate. I don't have a lock on my main gate. Then anyone can barge in, anyone can steal, stuff from my house. Now that doesn't mean that my house has been attacked yet. This means that my house is vulnerable to thefts. That my house is vulnerable to thefts. Now, when my house gets robbed, that is what means by exploitation. So what was the vulnerability? Vulnerability was this, that I did not have any lock. What do you mean by exploit? That through the absence of that lock, my house got robbed. So that is what it means. So these are the two terms, guys, which we always need to remember for cybersecurity. Even if you're in defensive cybersecurity or you are in offensive cybersecurity. So I've already said this before. Offensive cybersecurity is what you guys call ethical hacking. Defensive cybersecurity is where you use firewalls, where you use IDS, intrusion detection system, where we use intrusion prevention system to protect ourselves, okay, from such kind of attacks, from such kind of ethical hacking scenarios. Okay. So whatever you do, you proceed in this format. You take a vulnerability and then you try to exploit it. Now, how do we do this practically? So let me give you a brief overview. Okay, although we are going to do this in our further classes, but you should be prepared. You should be knowing what needs to be done in this case. So I'm going to take you to a website. Okay, and the name of that website is ExploitDB. Okay. So this website, guys, is the world's biggest database for vulnerabilities. Okay. It will tell you almost each and everything about, different stuff, different technologies being vulnerable to something. Okay. Like right now, we have so many things in the world related to technology. We have web applications, we have normal systems, we have smart vehicles. Okay. So security researchers worldwide, security researchers like you, security researchers like me, we will try to investigate the issues in a particular technology. And then if we find something, if we find a vulnerability and if we try to exploit it, we will generate something that is known as proof of concept. Okay. So what happens is, suppose I am using Microsoft Teams. Okay, all of us are using Microsoft Teams. Now, what will I do in this case? I will tell you guys that, hey guys, let's do something about Microsoft Teams. Let's try to find some vulnerabilities. So I will give you a list of attacks. Okay, I'll tell you that wherever you can apply these attacks to Microsoft Teams, do that. Okay, wherever you can apply these attacks to Microsoft Teams, do that. Now, if we are lucky, if we are experienced enough, if we have enough skills, then we might be able to exploit Microsoft Teams. Okay. So I will come up with something that is known as an exploit. So I tried all these attacks and I was finally able to exploit Microsoft Teams. I was able to gain sensitive information about other people as well in the world who are using Microsoft Teams. I'm just giving you a scenario about what is possible. So now what I will do is whenever I'm doing this, I will document the whole process. Okay. What I will do is I will either create a video or a screen recording while I'm doing this, or I will note down all the steps. And once I've noted down all the steps, what will I do then? I will give these to this website. And then my exploit will be published. So when your exploit gets published, it looks like this. Okay. So let's take a very simple example of this particular technology. So this technology's name is Simple Attendance System. Okay. With the whole world going online, so there might be some schools in the world or some universities in the world which are using a web application which is used for maintaining attendance of students or employees. Okay. This application has been written in PHP. Okay. So you click on this system. Okay. Whoever created this simple attendance system, that's the vendor name. Okay. That is the vendor name for that particular company. This is the software link through which this attendance system was downloaded. Okay. This attendance system works on two operating systems, Linux and Windows. Okay. What is the version of this attendance system? It's v1.0. Okay. So now a security researcher named Abdullah Khwaja, Abdullah Khwaja tried to play around with this attendance system in order to find vulnerabilities. Okay. So what did he find out? This security researcher put that in the description. Simple attendance system is prone to multiple vulnerabilities, which means there are multiple ways through which you can attack this simple attendance system. One of them is authentication bypass. One of them is authentication bypass. Now, what is authentication bypass? Authentication bypass means that even if there is a login page through which you have to enter your details, like name Dishant, password ABC, or name Uday, password ABC123, he was able to bypass that page. He was able to bypass that page. Imagine that. How? Using some SQL commands. Okay. So using some SQL commands. So this is what this is an exploit. Okay, don't worry if you don't understand this right now. I'm just giving you the overview of these terms. So this is something because whenever I'll talk about our labs, whenever we are dealing with our labs, or I'm giving you some homework, I'll tell you, okay, so this is the vulnerability, try to exploit it. So this is what we are going to do. Okay. So POC means proof of concept. I am just saying that, hey, this particular technology is vulnerable to something. How are people going to find out? People are not going to believe me because this is just a statement. So how do you prove your statement? Using a proof of concept. Okay, and this guy has included two proof of concepts. So this is what we do. Similarly, on Linux, when you are given access to commands, what you will do is you will check out that inside bin directory which command has been given to you, and almost in every case the command that would have been given to you would have a vulnerability associated with it. Okay, now your goal is to exploit that vulnerability. Okay, now you guys must be thinking like, this is just the second or the third class and this guy is telling us to exploit a vulnerability. For the initial classes, guys, we don't have to write out some piece of code. Okay, we don't have to be proficient in programming. What do we need to be good at? We need to be good at searching stuff on Google. Okay, we need to be good at finding out websites that will help us out here. Okay, so there are websites which are already there which will help us find out the pre-written exploit. So we don't have to write anything, we just have to copy that exploit, but we need to understand what it does. Okay, so that is the bin directory. So any doubts here, guys? Any doubts at all in this particular portion? We talked about this in the previous class as well. Yes, guys. Do you have any doubt at all? Or can we start with the next directory? Anyone who has any question?
Could you please explain vulnerability life cycle? Something.
Okay. So in case of vulnerability lifecycle, what are you looking to? So give me a brief overview of like what would you like to understand about vulnerability lifecycle? So basically, I'll just give you a brief overview. Even though right now we are just talking about the directories and the basic concepts. Okay, so vulnerability lifecycle basically does this. Okay, at any given point of time, if you feel like your computer or your system or your network is fully secure, that is never going to happen. Okay, that is never going to happen. So it's like a loop which you have to go through forever. Okay, so you identify vulnerabilities. Okay, you patch them. Patch means you fix them. Then what you do as a part of your vulnerability assessment, cycle, vulnerability assessment is going to be like for each and every period of time, you are going to find out your most critical, components of your system or of your network or in your organization. Okay, so once you do that, you're going to find out those assets and you're going to test them for vulnerabilities again. So just like you have your software development lifecycle, you test, you deploy, and you fix the bugs. So similarly, in vulnerability management cycles, what you're going to do is this. Okay. So like I said, you can start at any point in this cycle. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to discover some vulnerabilities. Okay. Through your general vulnerability assessment routine. After finding it out, you can, okay, fix or find out the significant components in your organization. Okay, then you assess them again for any particular vulnerability that you find. Then if you find anything or if you do not find anything, well, one thing that we have to do in cybersecurity at all the times, whenever you are in a one particular domain, you have to report it out. You have to document whatever you are doing. Okay, you always have to document whatever you are doing. So if you are conducting a pen test, you need to write each and everything down. For something as simple as finding out whether a website is running on HTTP or HTTPS, you also document that out so that you tell that to your client. Okay. Then if you find something, you fix it. Okay. You either prevent it from happening, you either remediate it, or you either mitigate it. Okay. Then you check, you triage it. Triage could be verify. So once you're done, you have fixed it, you verify if it has been fixed or not. Okay. And then you go ahead and again discover more vulnerabilities. Like I said, this life cycle is designed in such a way that you can start from any point. Okay. You could discover vulnerabilities maybe when you are working on something, or you can start with finding out your most significant components in your organization or in your network or on your system. Okay. Or what you could do is during a general vulnerability assessment routine, you could also find out some vulnerable components of your network. Okay. And then what you can do is you can start reporting them, you fix them, you verify that they have been fixed properly, and then you discover more. Is that clear?
Yes, clear. It's a continuous process, right, for any
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah, it's a continuous process for organizations where you could be doing or adopting this life cycle for either, uh, let's say you could be doing this for a network, a complete network. You could be doing this for a new technology that you have deployed. You could be doing this for a server. You could be doing this for an app. You could be doing this for a single system as well. So this is what you are going to do here. Okay.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Okay. No worries. Okay, guys. So then we are going to talk about another directory. Now I will not proceed in sequence here. Okay, I will first discuss the directories which are helpful to us in cybersecurity. Then, once I'm done with that, I will proceed with other directories as well. Okay, like here, you have boot. Okay, Here you have boot. This is something that we will deal with later. So I will just let you know what it does. So whenever you are starting up your system, whenever you are booting your system, okay, whenever you're booting your Linux system, there is something that gets involved here or gets invoked. Okay, that's known as bootloader. Okay, so all the files that are necessary for your computer to start up are present in this boot directory. Okay, this is just basic information that I'm going to give you about this directory because I said it's useful for Linux administration. For cybersecurity, we don't have to deal with this right now, or we do deal with this, but indirectly. No direct dealing with this right now. Okay. So whenever your computer starts up, there are some files required for that. Okay. So what do we use to boot up our Linux system? That is something known as a bootloader. And the name of that bootloader is grub. Okay. So we use grub to boot up our system. So all those files are present inside the boot directory. Okay, that is something that you need to know about right now. Okay, then the dev directory. Inside the dev directory, what do you have? Again, so Linux categorizes each and everything in form of folders and files or directories and files. So any devices that you have in your system, any devices that you have in your system, their folders, their files will be present inside the dev directory or the device directory. Okay, so this is where you have all your devices. Okay, like in our Windows devices, we have partitions, right? We have partitions C, D, E. How much are we going to keep for C? How much are we going to keep for D? How much are we going to keep for E? Similarly, inside dev, there are certain files that help you create partitions. Okay, that's all for now. But later, when we go ahead with Linux more and more, I'll tell you about these. Okay, because right now we're not directly dealing with these directories. Okay, I don't want to make this a Linux administration course. I want to keep it Linux for cybersecurity. Okay. Then comes one of my favorite directories, which is etc. Okay. So most of the system configuration files are present here. This place is this directory is essential for us to know. It is essential for ethical hackers. It is very essential for ethical hackers. Let me show you why. Okay. There are a few files here which will be necessary to understand because if we don't understand them, then we won't be good at what we are about to do. Okay. So the first file that I'm going to talk about, or the set of files, or the combination of files that I'm going to talk about is this etc passwd, etc passwd, and etc shadow. What are these files? Okay. So etc passwd contains information about the users. Okay, users info. But what kind of info? All their necessary information, like what is their home directory? Do they have a password? Where do these users stay? When they log in on the terminal or command line, what kind of terminal is invoked by these users? Okay. And then because every user is going to have a set of credentials, a piece of password. Okay. Where is that password stored? The password is stored in a file called shadow. Okay. So these two files go hand in hand with each other. Okay. These two files go hand in hand with each other. Shadow file will contain passwords. Okay. Your shadow file is going to contain password in a different type of format, and we are going to look at that different type of format right now. Okay, so imagine this: if you are hacking onto somebody's system, and you are able to open PASSWD file, then you will be able to see who all users are there on that system. Okay. And if you are able to access shadow file, then you are able to see their passwords. Not directly, but then there are ways through which we can open up these passwords, because these passwords are stored in certain type of formats. So rather than talking about this, I'll just show you. Okay. So I'm going to write cat. Okay. Or the first thing that I'll do here is so that you remember your commands. Okay. Now guys, what will I do if I have to go to this etc directory? Which command will I have to write? Let's first see I am in which directory. I am in /home/kali. So which command do I need to write in order to go to etc directory? Yes, you can unmute yourself and tell me.
CD.
Okay, just
CD.
CD. Yeah. Go ahead. Yep. Okay, let me show you. If you are unable to figure this out, you do this. Okay. If you have to go to etc, you click here. Okay. Now, where is etc? What is the exact path of etc? You write cd/etc/. Okay. This is what I need to write if I want to go to this directory. Got it, guys? Is that clear to all of you? So if I write cd/etc/ and I hit enter, now I am inside the etc directory. Okay. Just writing cd. Okay. There are cases where you just write cd. What will happen there? Let me show you. So when you log in to your computer, okay, when you log into your computer and you open up your terminal for the first time, okay, you open up your terminal for the first time. I'll delete everything here. Okay, I'll quit everything here. I will go to my terminal. I will first check where am I. So to check that, which command do I need to write? To check which directory I am in, guys, which command will I write? Which one? PWD.
PWD.
Okay, I write PWD. Okay, this is where I am. Now, if I just write CD, then no matter where I am, the default directory which I was in when I opened my terminal, it will take me there. Okay, it will take me there. So suppose I go to a directory called cd/bin. If I just write cd, guys, if I just write cd, it will take me where? Back to where when I logged in. So it will always take me to my home directory /home/kali. Okay. So if you're just writing cd, it will take you back to the step one. So you need to mention where you need to go. So right now in my GUI, I'm going to go to computer file system and I want to check the etc directory. Okay. So if you are stuck, okay, or if you don't know what to do, so try to learn in this manner. Try to open terminal on one hand, your graphical user interface on the other hand. So when you click on etc, all you need to do is put your pointer here. So when you put your pointer here, you will be able to see the path. So it's /etc/. What is it? /etc/. So if I write cd/etc/, just give me 1 minute, guys. Okay. So you write /etc/, and now you are in the etc directory. Okay. Now you have directories and you have files. Okay. And most of the files can be opened up through the terminal for reading purposes. What did I just say? These files can be opened up for reading purposes. Okay. Now opening up a file on GUI is very, very easy. Okay, opening up a file on GUI is very, very easy because we just need to click on it and the default tool which is to be used for that will open it up. Like suppose if I have a PDF file, okay, I click on that and I know that automatically Adobe PDF Reader will open up and I will be able to see my file. Okay, but we don't have any such mechanism by default on our terminal. Okay, so for that we use commands. Okay, now the file that I was just talking about, it's known as PASSWD. Okay, its name is PASSWD. It's not a directory, it's a file. And what do I want to do right now? I want to read this file. I want to check what is there in it. Okay. So when you have to read, you will use a command called cat. Okay. Cat is short for concatenate. Okay. Now do not confuse yourselves with the concatenate in programming. Okay. Concatenate takes two strings and combines them up. Here, the name is concatenate, but what will it do? It will try to open up that file and all the characters that are there, all the strings that are there, it will try to show them up. Okay. So you use a command called cat, guys. Okay. For reading, you use cat. Got it? So what I'm going to do here is I am going to first write ls. ls is going to do what, guys? For a particular directory? Yes. Can you repeat after me? What is ls going to do?
A listing of files.
Listing of files. Any files that are there in a folder, when I have to look them up inside my terminal, inside my directory, ls will list them up. Great. Okay. So the file that I'm trying to look for right now is PASSWD. And there you go. This is the file that I'm trying to look for and I'm trying to open it up. Okay. So what will I do? I will try to open this file for reading. So I will write cat PASSWD. Okay. Now there are two ways to open this file up. Okay. There are two ways to open this file up. First of all, let's look at this one. Okay. And we get a very confusing file here. Okay. How do we read this out? So there is a particular way through which you read what is there on this file. Okay. First of all, I used the command called cat. Cat is used for reading the contents of a file. ls is used for listing the contents of a directory. Okay, so do not confuse yourself in this case. I'll again use my pen. Okay. So you have certain parameters that you need to look for here in this PASSWD file. So first of all, what does this PASSWD file contain? It contains information about users and processes. Okay. Because users work on a computer and processes run on a computer. So you have information about users and processes. Okay. What kind of processes that do not need user intervention or which do not require a user to run? These will run automatically, okay, in the background. Okay. They have a name associated with them. They have a name called daemon. I'll talk about that soon. Okay, not to confuse you with all this information right now. So here you have users and processes. How do you read a particular entry? So the first entry that you have is root colon x colon 0 colon 0 colon root again, then colon slash root, then colon slash usr slash bin slash zsh. Let's try to read this file. Okay, guys, is my audio? Are you guys able to hear me, and are you guys able to see my screen as well? Because I think I got disconnected for a moment. Okay, thanks. Okay. So you have first root here. What is this root? This is the name of the user. So this is name of the root user that we have, the super user on this computer. Okay. What is X? X means that this user has a password. X just indicates that this user has a password and it is in shadow file. It is in shadow file. They do not keep the password with the username in the same file. Okay, that's the policy in Linux. Okay, then since Linux is a multi-user operating system, you will have different users. Okay, you will have different users. So every user will have a particular ID associated with them. Okay, every user will have a particular ID or identification associated with them. So the first zero that you see here, guys, is the user ID. Okay, the first zero that you see here is the user ID. What about the second zero? The second zero is your group ID. Now you must be wondering, what is this group? Okay, so on Linux, guys, you have this. Okay, now there will be multiple users. Now suppose I have 10 users on my Linux operating system. 3 are in the networking department, 4 are in the cloud department, and then 3 in the security department. Now obviously for those 10 users there will be user IDs. But in order to efficiently manage my Linux operating system, I can put them in groups according to their departments. So if I have the networking department, I will create a group called NW or networking, whatever I want. Okay. And that group ID will be 0. Okay. Then I can create a cloud department and its ID will be 1. I can create a security department and for that I'll create a security group and its ID will be 2. So that's how it is. We'll also create more users on this machine. I'll create more groups on this machine. Okay, first let's look at what users and groups are. Okay, so Linux being a multi-user operating system, for efficiency, for access control, you are also able to create groups in which you can place these different users. Okay, coming back. So the second zero that you see here, guys, is the group ID. Okay, then you already had a root here. Why do you have one more root here? Now, the second time you get this root is basically the comments or the information section. Okay. Now it's left as it is. Like this root has been written root. Now, but we can use editing tools. We can use a text editor to edit the contents of this entry called root. Now I can write anything like here the root user is Adhiraj, or here the root user is KSR, or the root user's favorite color is green. I could write anything. This is the comment section. Okay, this is the comments section. Now, what is the next entry followed by colon? Now we will find all the entries followed by colon, separated by colon. So colon here is the delimiter. Okay, so you have a root. Now till now you have got 3 roots, but what about this root where you have a slash? So slash root is the home directory of root user. It's the home directory of the root user. And when this root user starts using the terminal, when this root user starts using the terminal, like what we are on is a terminal. So for a regular user, you get some other type of a terminal on which you have limited access. For root user, you get a certain type of terminal with which you have all the access. The terminal looks the same. Whatever Outlook or whatever interface that we have for this terminal, it will be the same. It will not be different. But you will have access to more commands. Okay. You will have more permissions. You are able to bypass a lot of other steps. Okay. So this is basically the type of shell or the type of terminal that is granted to this user when he tries to use the terminal. Okay. So this is the format for PASSWD file in the etc directory. Okay. Now, you guys help me out in this case. Okay. Right now, there are only two users in this operating system. One is root, the other one is Kali. Okay. The user who I am logged in as. Others, all the others are processes. All the others are processes that are running on this system. Okay. So now what we are going to do, guys, you guys are going to help me out and we will revise what we just covered for this particular PSSWD. Now, guys, I want to do the same for this user named Kali. So can you tell me what each entry means? What is the first Kali, guys? What is the first Kali? Yes,
Ka-
what is the first Kali?
Kali is username.
Okay, Kali is username. What about X, the next entry?
It contains a password which is saved in the shadow file.
Right, great. Which means that it has a password, but it won't be stored here. It won't be stored here. It will be stored separately in a file called shadow. What about the next one? What is this? What is this 1000? What is the next entry? What is the third entry, guys?
Group
So,
ID.
no, the first one is user ID. The first one is user ID. Okay. What is the next one now? The next one is going to be,
This group ID. Yeah.
yeah, that's the group ID. Okay. Then what is this? This is just some information that you can edit. Okay. This is for bookkeeping purposes, kept by Linux administration, Linux administrator. So like here, it has been written Kali, comma, comma, comma. You can change it. Like the real username of Kali is Adhirath, or the real username of Kali is Mahesh, or the real username of Kali is KSR. You could write anything here. Okay, guys. You could write anything here. Okay. What about the next entry followed by colon? What is this? Yes, guys, can you tell me what is the next entry? Try. Don't worry if you're right or
It
wrong.
is a path to the user.
Okay. So yeah, path, but this is path for the directory in which Kali is residing. Okay. Because every user has some files, right? I would have some images. I would have to keep something, for myself. So where do they actually get stored? They get stored inside my home directory. Okay. So /home/Kali. Now you must be thinking, for a regular user like Kali, he has to stay in /home/Kali. Why can't you do the same for root user? Because root user is a super user, okay? And for security purposes, you don't keep him in the same directory as in Kali, okay? He has special privileges. He can do whatever he wants. So his home is kept separately in the /root directory, okay? Also known as root home directory, okay? And then the last entry, guys, is the shell, or is the type of terminal that you get when you log on to your CLI, where we are right now. Okay, this is what you get. Now, we have tried to understand what all these entries mean. Okay, now let's try to uncover this X. Now, this X is telling us that there is a password and it is in the shadow directory. Now, where is this password? Where is this password? Let's see. Okay. Now, what do you think, guys? This file contains passwords. So, should it be a sensitive file? According to you guys, should it be a sensitive file or can anyone open this password file? What do you think, guys? Can anyone in this world just log on to this computer and open it up? Even a regular user?
No,
Okay. What do you think, Chetan, should happen here?
because it said in some read write or read only access need to be maybe provide to user.
Yes, yes, correct. And what do you think? Like, I know even for read access, even for something as simple as read access, will I be able to open it easily? Because what I can do is I can take a screenshot, send it to my other computer, and then I can start hacking that shadow file, because shadow contains all the passwords. And what does an attacker want to do? He wants to get those passwords, he wants to hack them and try to log in as the real user. So do you think Linux will allow you to open it as a regular user? Okay, let me show you what will happen here. Now, first of all, let's see who I am right now. So in case you want to find out with which username you have logged in, you can also do that, guys, with a command called who am I. It's that simple. If you want to find out who you are, okay, if you are confused, like are you logged in as a root user, or are you logged in as Kali, or are you logged in as another user that you just created on your Linux operating system? Okay. So how do you check which user are you? With a very simple command. Okay. No spaces involved. You just write who am I to find out who you are currently logged in as. You write a very simple command called who am I. That's it. Simple. And once you write who am I, you get to know that you are a user called Kali. And the best thing about these commands is that you don't have to go to a particular directory to write this command. You can write it anywhere. Like right now, I'm in etc directory, and if I write who am I will still be able to know who am I. If I want to go and check where am I right now, this is where am I. This okay. This is where am I. This does not mean who am I. Where am I is found out using PWD. And now if I want to check who am I, it's Kali. So such commands are universal. Okay, they do not apply to directories. You can write them anywhere on the terminal. Okay, so who am I right now? Kali. And Kali on this operating system is a regular user. So in this operating system, we just have two users. We have root, okay, and we have Kali. Okay, so this is actually the hierarchy. This is actually the hierarchy for this operating system. Root will have access to all commands. I will have access to some commands. Okay, so we have been talking about how secure Linux is. So if I just try to open up this shadow file to read the contents, let's see if I'm able to do that or not. Okay, so I write cat shadow. And what do I get? Permission denied. And that was obvious, right? That was very, very obvious. So Kali as a regular user could be anyone, right? Kali as a regular user could be an insider who is involved with the attackers. So do you let that person open such a sensitive file which contains the passwords? No. But I still want to do something. Okay, I still want to do something. I am Kali and I still want to open up this file. So what I'll do is, me being Kali, I will ask root. I will ask root this. Hey, I want to open this file. Okay. Now root is a little skeptical. Root says, I don't know what you will do with this file. You could, you could sell this information to attackers. That's highly possible. Okay, but since you are a user of this operating system, I can't really, forbid you from doing stuff. So what root will do, root will tell Kali that, okay, you can do that. But you can do that, but in order to access this file, you will have to use sudo. You will have to use sudo. Now, what is sudo? Sudo is short for super user do. Sudo will let a normal user open up a file that is sensitive that cannot be opened directly by that regular user. With sudo, he will get root permissions for a few seconds or for a particular moment of time with which he can open up a sensitive file. Now you must be thinking any user can, fool the root user and tell him to give him sudo permissions and he will be able to access that command. No, it's not that simple. Whenever you write a command with sudo permissions, it is logged. All your actions are logged. Okay, so if you are thinking that you do something malicious and you will never get caught, you are wrong. Okay, so a root user is trusting you. A root user is trusting you to be good with this file, not to sell this information. But just as a precaution, he will tell you to use sudo. Sudo will log all your actions. Like what kind of actions? Like at this particular time, a user named Kali opened up this file. He stayed on that file for this much time and then he came out of that file. Okay. So in case an attack happens, root user can look at the logs. Okay. That is what is special about Kali. Now, even or any form of Linux operating system. I'm not saying that Windows, see guys, Windows is also secure. The latest Windows Defender update that you have, that is way better than any paid antivirus software that you will buy. Okay. But the thing is, we use Windows as a regular operating system. Okay. If we knew a lot of stuff about PowerShell, if we knew a lot of stuff about the command line, then let me tell you, we would be, you know, really be able to handle our Windows devices really well. Okay. And there is something called cyber hygiene. Now, what is cyber hygiene? Let's take an example of simple hygiene. If you find a needle, okay, if you find a needle somewhere lying on the road, you just don't take it and put it inside your body or inject it inside your body, right? But what if you find a USB drive lying on the road? Your first instinct is to, put it in your pocket, go home and plug it in your computer to find out what is there in that USB drive, right? A lot of people would do that, and that constitutes bad cyber hygiene. With bad cyber hygiene, you get attacks, your computers get hacked, your computers get attacked by ransomware. Okay, so cyber hygiene is the main thing in Windows or any other operating system, but at least cyber hygiene should really be good in Windows. Okay, now coming back to this, if I have to access the shadow file, so I'll write sudo cat shadow. How will my actions be logged? Because I have to enter my password to open up this file. Okay, I have to enter my password to open up this file. Okay, now again here you have a lot of entries, but you just need to be aware of the first two entries in every file here. Okay, or the first two fields in every file that you see here. Okay, you should be aware about just this much information. Okay, so most of these are processes. Now there won't be any passwords for the processes. Processes are running on a computer. A process does not require a password. Users do to authenticate themselves. So right now, Kali is the user, okay, and this is their password, okay. But do you know what is the default password? I talked about it. The default password for a user named Kali is Kali. But when I have to see this password, it looks like this. This is not Kali. Then what is this? I just told you Kali's password is Kali, but when we look at the contents of shadow file, you see it's something. You look at it and it is something else,
Password is
and it
encrypted.
is yes. So in cases if an attacker is able to get access to your shadow file, even at that time it won't be that easy for him to use your password because your password Kali is encrypted, and not just encrypted, guys. It is hashed. Now, what is encrypted? What is hashed? Let's talk about that. So, what happens, guys? Let's take a general scenario. Whether you use Mac, whether you use Windows, whether you use iOS or Android. Okay. So, the first time you use your computer, you will have to set up a password. You will have to set up a password. Okay. So, when you set up a password, that gets stored in a security manager. Okay, gets stored in a security manager and in a security database. Okay, so this could be that database. Okay, now this database, this file could be different for different operating systems. Like for Mac OS and for Linux, your password will be stored in etc shadow, the same that we looked at right now. Even for Mac it is the same. Okay, for Windows, it gets stored in something called SAM, Security Access Module. Okay, it gets stored in Security Access Module database. It's called SAM database. Now, when your password gets stored, it just does not get stored as it is. So if you give your password as Adhirath1, it does not get stored as Adhirath1. Number one reason for this is obviously if the attacker is able to look at the database, he will be able to see your password right away. That's a big no. That's an alarm there. Okay. Plus, most of the operating systems are built to be or are created to be multi-user operating systems. They are created to be multi-user operating systems. Okay. So when these passwords get stored in a database, there needs to be something which is known as uniformity, which needs to be uniformity. Now, whenever you create your password on an operating system or on a web application or on a mobile application, they just tell you that the minimum amount of characters should be 5 or 6 or 8. But they do not really tell you about what should be the maximum length because you can keep it as much as you want. I can write Adhirath1 KSR consultant. This could be my password. And if Abdul does it, or if Uday does it, he could keep his password as Uday 512. How many characters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. How much is this? More than 10. But when this has to go in the database, there needs to be uniformity. There needs to be uniformity. So what do you do in this case? You create a hash. You create a hash. What is a hash? Hash is basically a simple mathematical function, okay, which takes in input of any size. Input of any size and converts it into a fixed size output. Okay. So like Uday's password was Uday512, Adhirat's password was Adhirat1 KSR consultant. These inputs have arbitrary size. Arbitrary size means that these inputs do not have a fixed size. So these inputs will go through a hashing function, which is a mathematical function. And in the end, we will get a fixed size output so as to maintain uniformity in the database. Now, we were talking about two things, encrypted plus hashed. Now, what is encrypted plus hashed? This is hash. What is encryption? Now, encryption comes from cryptography. Cryptography has been there since 17th century. Till the time, I mean, it's there since the time we were not even born. Okay. So cryptography just states this. When two parties are
ஆமா
communicating, when
இங்க
what?
நானா என்ன தென்காசி ம் இல்ல எந்த காலம் தெரியல அப்படியா சரி சரி ஆள் தெரியல சரி வரட்டுமே வெயிட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க இப்போ சாருக்கு ஃபோன் பண்ண வந்துட்டு இருக்கேன் மாப்பிள்ள நீங்க சார் எங்களுக்கு புதிய செல்வம் ஆமா
Okay. Yeah. So please could you mute yourself? Okay. Thanks. So when two parties are communicating with each other, okay, the main goal is that the message sent by P1 should be received by P2 only. It shouldn't be read by any unauthorized parties. Okay. So anyone who's sitting here, let's say me, I am an attacker. When this message goes through this medium or this channel, I can read it. So in order to make this message unreadable, I will use something that is known as cryptography. Okay. Let's take a very simple example of cryptography, guys. So I'll go to a website called Crypty. Okay. I'll use something known as Caesar cipher. Now let's see what it does. Okay. I have to send this message to you guys. Okay. But I don't want anyone sitting on the internet or anyone who's trying to intercept or understand our communication who is not a part of our group to understand this message. Okay. So I'll create a message and this is my name is Adhirat.
நான் செய்யணும்
Tomorrow's class is at 8 a.m. Okay. So you guys can see now whenever this gets sent on the internet, this is what it will look like. It's a simple cryptographic method that I've used here. What is happening here? Characters are being shifted. Okay. A becomes D, B becomes E, C becomes F, D becomes G, E becomes H, and so on. Okay. So anyone who's trying to read this message will not be able to understand this message. Okay. Now, obviously, we've got a lot of tools through which we can easily understand this because here you have 8. So this is the easiest form of cryptographic methods. You have advanced cryptographic methods that you use. So this is known as encryption. Okay. This is known as encryption. And what will I do now? I will hash it. So I'll just give you an example, and tomorrow we'll start from here where we are leaving off today because it's already 9:32. So I'll write something which is MD5. So this is one of the hashing algorithms. Okay, this is one of the hashing algorithms. So what I'll do is I will take this method that I have, or this message that I have encrypted. I will paste it here and I will hash it. So this now creates a hash. Okay, this is now a fixed size output. And this is what happens when you create your passwords. So when they get stored in databases, in the security access modules or the etc shadow, they get stored in such a format. Okay. So in our case, in etc shadow, what has happened is it has it has been stored in a hashed format. Okay. And you can also find out what kind of hashing algorithm has been used. So this is the algorithm which is being used. $Y. Okay. So we'll talk about it tomorrow because I know you guys will have. Okay. So that was all for today, guys. Okay. So if you have any doubts, let me know. Okay, guys. So if you have any doubts, please let me know. Anyone who has any doubts at all. Okay. So what we are going.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
this
yeah,
is
Dishan. What,
yeah.
Dishan?
Just want to check with you, right? So the sudo which we are using is a vertical escalation that I can say.
It doesn't lead to vertical escalation. Okay, sudo is just a command that will help you take permissions from root user. Okay, but there are ways through which we can use sudo. Okay, we can use sudo, and we can use a command like sudo space -l. We can use other commands through which we can indirectly cause vertical privilege escalation. So you are right. Okay, but we use sudo to cause vertical privilege escalation indirectly. Directly, we can't do that. Okay, you are right. Sudo is something because sudo requires root user permissions, and for us to escalate our privileges vertically, somehow in one way or the another, directly or indirectly, mostly indirectly, we are going to use sudo. Okay, so others you can definitely leave the classes over. Like this, you asked a really nice question, so I can show you to just to make your point, or just to create your, or just to solve your doubt here. Okay, now
Sure.
imagine which command. Do you remember which command we were using here to open it up? We were using cat, right? We were using cat here, remember, to open it up. And to open this shadow command, we had to use sudo permissions. Okay, I now know that as a user Kali, I have been granted permissions by root user to enter which command? Cat command. Okay, to enter which command? Cat command. And cat is in which directory, Dishant? Cat is a binary, cat is a command. Cat is in which directory? Slash
Almost
bin.
yeah.
Slash bin. Okay, slash bin. So now there is a website available to me which helps me find out, any vulnerabilities, any exploits that will help me cause privilege escalation. So there is a website called GTFO bins. So whenever you are trying to find out vulnerabilities related to the bin directory, you will go to this website called GTFO bins. I'll come back here. Root user gave me permissions to access cat command, but with sudo. So what I'll do is write sudo. I will write cat, and these small scripts or these small commands that you see here are used for privilege escalation. How do they do that? I'll show you. But this is how you will escalate your privileges. So these exploits are pre-written. Okay, these exploits have been written by security researchers worldwide, and they have been combined into this resource that we are using called GTFO bins. Okay, so yes, you're right. That's vertical privilege escalation, but indirectly, not directly. Okay.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Awesome. Any other questions, guys? Any other questions that you guys have? I'll be happy to answer them. Nope. If not, then let's meet tomorrow. And tomorrow we are going to start with our practicals as well. Okay, so only a few Linux directories are left. Now, I know some of you would be knowing about the Linux directories, but some of you are complete freshers who have no idea of, Linux. So whatever I've taught you, go through that. And I actually thought of giving you homework last time. I did not because we just started. We that was our first class. Okay, so I have shared the homework by email on email with Mahesh, okay, the KSR team. So this right here would be your homework. Let me just check where it is. KSR data. Okay, no, it's going to be here in KSR data heist class 1. Okay. So I know Linux is, a completely huge domain in itself, but there are homework. There is some assignment that I will give you related to Linux fundamentals. If you guys can do this right now, you can. But if you guys feel like you are not ready right now, you need to get more information, you can wait. So there is no hard and fast rule. We are here together for around 2 to 3 months. That's how much time we are going to take to complete this course. Okay. So you can take your own time, but don't worry. I have all the homework for you for networking, for different types of commands, for Linux fundamentals as well. So these are labs on Linux. These labs will help you out in every way possible. Okay. So if I click here on Linux fundamentals part 1, let me just log in here. Let me show you. I will use yeah, let me now log in. Okay. So here a bit of background on Linux, interacting with your first Linux machine, running your first commands. Like we wrote who am I? We haven't looked at who echo right now. Okay. Then interacting with the file system using commands like cd, ls, cat, pwd. We have already looked at these commands. So we look at these commands more and more. And then once you are comfortable with using Linux, see, nobody's always comfortable with using Linux. Even after 2 to 3 years of using Linux extensively, I still feel like, you know, I'm learning something new because you cannot remember all the commands, okay? Unless and until you are a Linux administrator. Even if you're a Linux administrator, you will only remember a few commands through which you need to get your job done. You cannot remember each and everything because there are commands related to administration, there are commands related to networking, there are commands related to Docker, there are commands related to hacking, there are commands related to malware analysis. So you can never learn all of them. But if you go through such exercises, you will at least have a upper hand on Linux. Okay. Plus, in our classes, if you have any doubts related to whatever command I'm writing, do ask me. Okay. So that's what I want to tell you. Okay. So that's all. You can contact the team. They'll give you the recording for today's session as well. Okay. Try to understand stuff. Okay. Try to look at other directories. Just Google Linux file system, Linux directories. And if you faced any problem in today's class, you will be able to cover that up using any simple article on the internet. Plus, you can always ask me tomorrow when we start our class.